right, Feisties, welcome to this week's episode. I'm Kelly O'Mara, and we have a special guest this week. Katie and Joanne are both out, but we are joined by Sika Henry, the first female Black pro triathlete. And now, Sika, now what? A corporate girly, right?
Yep, full time.
I mean,
Full time before, but now I'm full time.
I was going to say, you were always working full-time while racing
Yes.
pro, but
Yeah.
now you're kind of officially retired from triathlon, but you told me you have a swim race on the horizon. So have you
Yes.
gotten back in the pool?
I have. Yeah. I took about a year off from swimming. It was the thing that I liked the least in triathlon. And when I quote unquote retired, I was just like, yes, I never have to swim again. But then I started dealing with a lot of injury, like
Right.
running related injuries, and I wanted to stay active. So I started getting back in the pool, and I found because it wasn't like a requirement, I started enjoying it. And I
Oh.
started swimming longer and longer. And I'm like, well, while I'm doing all this swimming, why don't I see what races are out there? So,
So what did you sign up for?
a 5K open water swim.
Oh,
And the
wow.
longest I have raced open water is the Ironman distance. So
Right.
2.4 miles, and this will be 3.1.
Well, that'll be exciting. So what is keeping you like how, I mean, we'll talk some more about it, but now, you know, that you're retired, what kind of keeps you motivated? How do you find different goals, keep going?
I've been looking for more experiences, I would say, than necessarily racing for time. When I was doing triathlon, there were so many run races and marathons that I had wanted to try, but because the run was my strength and the swim and the bike were my weakness, we focused more on those. And so I wasn't really able to do those like bucket list items over like the span of 10 years. So I had recently done Marine Corps Marathon that had always been on the list, something that I had wanted to do. And so I signed up for that. I'm thinking about maybe the Philly Marathon this year. And um, so, yeah, I think that's what's keeping me motivated. And then people reach out and they're like, hey, have you heard of this event? Like Selma to Montgomery. It's a 51-mile route to commemorate the march led by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Back in the 1960s for the right to vote for African Americans in the country to vote. And I decided to do the full 51-mile run and experience that. And it was amazing. Last year, I also did an event in Richmond called Run 1619. It's put together by the actor Jaimon Hansu from
Huh.
Gladiator, and it's about 10 miles. It's actually 16.19K through Richmond, and it goes through the city, and you pass by historical markers. If people don't know, like during the year 1619 is when slaves were taken from Africa, brought to the shores of Richmond, and where we were enslaved. But they have all these memorials there that I never even noticed before. So it was interesting experiencing that event. So it's like movement, which I'm enjoying, not necessarily racing, and then also like learning a bit of culture and
Hmm.
my family history through these events. So that's
Oh
kind of
yeah,
what I've
that's
been
interesting.
exploring.
Yeah, do you like find more meaning in some of those events where there's, you know, another element to it?
I do. Racing before the meeting was try to be as fast as you possibly
Right,
can
right.
to place or, to qualify for something and, or, PR or whatever else. And that just, I've accomplished all those things that I've already wanted to. And so that doesn't feel as fulfilling anymore. So I still love being active. I like being in the community. I like registering for events because when I register for something, then it's like, okay, now I have to train for this. But when it's actual experience and it goes beyond just like place or, like your time on the clock and it's a learning experience, I just find that really fulfilling for me right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
you and I were kind of talking because you have stepped back from triathlon, you're not paying as much attention to it, but I think you did catch some of Ironman New Zealand this past weekend, and we were both very impressed with some of the women there. I will say, so I'm going to say all the stats right now, but like Kat Matthews won, followed by Hannah Berry, followed by Lottie Williams. They all broke the previous course record. But then we were both pretty impressed with Tamara Jewett in fourth. Her run, she ran a 2:42.
I know it's insane when you think about that time. Like that used to qualify you for the Olympic trials in the marathon, and she's running that at the end. Not only that, she's running faster than almost all of the men except the ones that are on the podium.
Yeah,
Um,
no, that's true. Only the top 4 men ran faster than her.
oh,
Yeah.
okay, there you go. Yeah, it's super impressive. I mean, she's always, that's her background is running, but still to be able to translate that to the end of a Ironman. And what I like about following her in these races is she never throws in the towel. Like she could get
Mm,
off the bike in 10th, and it's fun watching how she moves through the field. Like she will not stop until the finish line. And that's pretty cool. It's like, oh, let's see how many people she can pass. But yeah, it's, I don't follow triathlon as closely in terms of like watching all the YouTube channels and reading
right.
all the articles and looking at the results, but I still have the app on my phone. So if there is a big race, I look at the app. I find it really fascinating how much faster people are getting with the new
Hmm.
technology. So I'm like, okay, well, what changes are happening? So maybe the tech side of things I find a little bit more interesting. Um, yeah, it's fun. And then there are people who I've always followed that I still really enjoy, like Lucy Charles is one of
Sure.
my favorites. I love following like Chelsea Sodaro and who else on the men's side? Lionel Sanders is always pretty fun. So
Sure, sure.
yeah. So there's people that I still loosely follow.
Do you miss it? Or are you like, no, that was a time in my life and I've moved on?
I don't miss how time consuming and physically draining it was.
Sure.
I love sleeping in on the weekends now instead of having to get up for, like be on the bike at 7 a.m. to miss, avoid traffic and things like that. I'm also married now, and before I was single. And so it's really nice to be able to, on a Friday night, go out to dinner with my husband and not have to be careful of what I eat Friday night because I have like a, long bike ride the next day or something. Um, I miss the structure. I'm a
Hmm.
very structured person. So sometimes I find that I have a little more idle time on my hands, which is weird for me. And now it's like I'm trying to fill that void and I'm not quite sure what to fill it with. I'm like, oh, do
Oh,
I want to get into
interesting.
coaching or do I want to, I don't know, do more volunteer work or something? I would say the biggest thing that I miss is the opportunities that it brought when I was when I was racing, especially once I turned pro. I had so many like organizations reach out and ask
Hmm.
me to come speak at a school or to a tri club or ways that brought me back to the community, and it wasn't just all about performance. So I would say that is actually what I miss the most about no
Hmm.
longer racing triathlon.
What was your favorite of those different opportunities that you got?
Oh, speaking at schools, middle
Oh, really?
schools,
Okay.
locally, yeah, they're so young and impressionable, and they don't. The concept of an Ironman or something to them is crazy. Some of the schools I go to were like in the inner city, predominantly Black kids who didn't even know that you could start swimming at like the age of 3 or 5.
Hmm.
They'd never seen a wetsuit or like a triathlon bike in person. So bringing that experience to them and showing them what's possible and what other sports are out there and a pathway to maybe like a college scholarship later on, like just the um, newness to their eyes and their brain and understanding distances and everything. That is my favorite part, and that is the number one thing I miss the most is
Do
the young kids.
you do any, have you ever, did any of those kids go on and do more triathlons? Did you ever see them out?
I don't know. Well, so um, Naugatuck, there are 3 young girls that started a triathlon team. That was a couple of
Oh,
years ago at their high school. I know that the high school still has a tri club now. They've gone on to college, and I think they still follow triathlon and stuff. I actually wrote one of their recommendations to college. She ended up getting into Columbia. Um, so there's that. But yeah, I'm not sure if any of
huh.
the local people have gone on to do it. Hopefully maybe they asked their parents to get into swim lessons when they got home, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was just curious because yeah, I know you've like worked with like you'll send me notes sometimes about like the college kids or something, and
Mhm.
so I know you still like keep an eye on all of them.
Mhm. Yep, I do. Yeah.
Okay, so you and I met when you were kind of already like an elite age grouper and kind of trying to like make that jump to pro, but I never heard. How did you even get started in triathlon in the first place? Did someone come and show you a bike? Like, how did you hear about? How did you find out about
No,
it?
I've always known it exists, like most people, because of
Sure.
Kona. Um, what was it, 2013? I'm now remarried, but at the time I was young and I was actually going through a divorce and depressed and not really taking care of myself, getting out the house. I wasn't active and I needed something to distract me from my situation and pull me
Hmm.
out of my depression. And I saw that there was a local triathlon. It was right at Buckrow at in Hampton, Virginia. So it was like a short drive from my house, and I had like 2 weeks to prepare for it. And I was like, okay, this is perfect. And literally, that is how I got started in triathlon. I did that one sprint, came in like last place, and I was like, oh, this is fun. Let's see how much faster I can get.
And how did you kind of progress from, the like, oh, I'm going to do this race in 2 weeks at my local gym to, you know, being really serious to, wanting to race professionally?
I think
Like,
it
how long did
was,
that take?
gosh, that was 2013. So I'd say I got super serious in 2016 when I finally got
Okay.
a coach for the first time and signed up for a half Ironman. But before that, it was baby steps. It was a couple sprints and then an Olympic and traveling to races to do an Olympic distance
Mm.
swim and hillier courses. And so, yeah, it was very much, I would say, baby steps until about 2016, 2017.
Did you grow up swimming?
I did, yeah. I was
Oh.
terrible then. I'm still terrible now. Yeah, I did. I luckily I did have that background. But I never really rode a bike though
Oh, yeah, that
until
was my problem. Yeah.
triathlon. Hmm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
many people, the swimming's the problem, but I also was like, I don't know how to ride a bike.
Yeah.
Like, how does this work? So,
Right, right, exactly. Yeah, yeah. The like thought of clipping in scared me. Riding in groups scared me. When the light would turn red and I'd have to stop, that would scare me. So yeah, it took a while to finally like start to feel comfortable on a bike.
why was it important? I mean, obviously, as you grew up in the sport, I know later, like, representation became very important to you, but at what point did you look around and be like, wait, there aren't that many other Black athletes? There aren't that many other athletes who look like me. I want to be an example. Like, because I mean, when you're just starting out, you don't think about that,
Oh, I did
Like,
the very first
oh, you
race.
did.
Yeah, the first race. I'm like, we're all Black people. Because, road race is like a 5K. It's a mix. It's,
Yes.
road racing has come such a long way. It's so diverse. I think there's more women now at road races than I see the men. But, the very first triathlon I did, I want to say if I wasn't the only one, I think I was the only Black female there.
Hmm.
And I mean, it was a pretty big race. It was at the time what they called Virginia Triathlon Series, but or no, it was Kinetic, and now they're Virginia Triathlon,
Oh,
or
yeah.
vice
Yeah.
versa. So yeah, they have a lot of races around here. But I noticed it immediately. Like
Hmm.
literally after the race that weekend, it was on a Saturday. I think maybe Sunday morning I woke up and I was like, let me Google statistics and what's going on. And yeah, so that very first weekend I started digging into it.
Oh, okay. And what did you find when you started digging into it?
First was the statistic of African Americans lacking basic swim skills. Was it
Hmm.
64% or 74%? I'm like forgetting now because it's been so long I've had this discussion. But let's say more than half of Black people cannot swim. They lack basic swim skills. And yeah, so at first I thought it was just a money thing. I'm like,
Right.
oh, maybe because like I saw the fancy equipment. I mean, I was on a mountain bike at the time, but I saw the fancy equipment and stuff. I'm like, maybe it's just so expensive, or maybe people just don't want to get in the water or something. And I was like, oh, okay, no, they lack basic swim skills. So if you can't swim, you can't do triathlon and a lot of that. And when I thought about it, I'm like, even my family, my friends, I'm like, yeah, a lot of them can't swim, and diving more into that, I'm like, whoa, why is that? And when I looked at, systemic racism, and I mean, for up until, what was it, civil rights, we couldn't swim in the same pool.
Oh, yeah.
It was divided. And not only that, it's like we didn't have access to pools. And then in certain neighborhoods, they didn't want us in the pool, so they would actually fill them with concrete. So we didn't even have that option. And I'm like, okay, so yeah, just reading history, reading
Yeah,
books,
no, for
understanding.
sure.
Martin Luther King Jr. actually spoke about this in his
Mhm.
speeches. So yeah,
Yeah, it's always interesting to me when people, when we talk about diversity in the sport, and they're like, "Oh, it's expensive," and you're like, "Sure," but also, Black people were literally
yes,
banned from pools until like 50
yes,
years ago. Like
yeah,
people dropped acid in the water to like stop them from integrating. Like that has a long
exactly.
history then, because then
Yeah,
parents
yes.
aren't going to let their kids go swim. Those parents are not ready to get passed on.
Right. Well, the wildest thing is because I've gotten back in the pool, so I often go on my lunch break and I go to um it's a gym, but it's mostly for like older people rehabbing. So a lot of the people are older in the pool while I'm swimming in the other lane. This one guy, he looked at me, he was in the other lane. He was like, "How'd you learn to swim like that?" Older black gentleman. And I was like, "My parents put me in lessons when I was young." And I was like, "How'd you learn to swim like that?" Turns out the guy's 90 years old.
Oh
Um, he's like, "Well, I grew up in Columbia, South Carolina, and back in those days, I had to find a pool, like a black pool, is what he called it, and so he
wow, right.
taught himself to swim."
Huh.
So it was just interesting hearing his um, history of growing up during that time in the South and segregated pools and him having to learn how to swim, and how back then, he didn't know anybody who could. So he was one of the few lifeguards actually, like
Oh
in the whole
wow.
state. Yeah. So yeah,
Oh,
these people are
interesting.
still walking and living amongst us. So it's pretty interesting story.
I was gonna say, as you went to that first race, and you're looking around, and you're like, "Wait, what's
Mhm.
going on?" Did you find people to talk like to? Did you find groups, role models, people to kind of help you through the sport?
Yeah, I mean, each step of the way, I'd say I had a blog as soon as I started doing
Hmm.
triathlon. This was back when
This
blogging
is
was
back when we all had
popular. Yeah,
blogs.
people
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
like journaled online. We didn't have YouTube videos and all that stuff, and so I started a blog. And it was pretty much like, I'm a newbie triathlete, and this is how this race went, and these are my experiences and learning and stuff. And so a lot of people started to reach out to me through that and through social
Oh.
media. I joined groups like Black Triathletes Association, National Black Marathoners Association. Locally, I started training with, I guess you call it club. Yeah, it was the Yorktown Triathlon Club, but people there. Um, and so I had a very diverse group of people that I trained with, that I interacted with. I was influenced. I'd say Dan Emfield played a huge role in my journey through triathlon. And he's the former owner of Slow Twitch. He
Hmm.
created the first triathlon wetsuit, first triathlon bike. And I flew out to California and I stayed with him and his wife, and he fitted me. And so he's played a huge role in my journey. Eric Gilsonen, he introduced me to Hoka and got I was sponsored by them. And so yeah, I've had a lot of like little influences. I'd say from a young age though, Dominique Dawes was my very first
Oh. Okay.
inspiration. Yes, yes, I
But that's
idolized her.
gymnastics.
Yeah,
That's like not.
gymnastics.
I was like, that has nothing to do with
I
triathlon.
know, I know, but still, it was like, 96 Atlanta Games, watching the Olympics and
Oh
seeing this
yeah.
young black girl. She became the first, African American gymnast, male or female, to win gold. And yeah, and then I took up gymnastics because of her. And so I'd
Oh,
say
did
that
you?
really got me in sports. Yeah, she was my idol.
Wow, that's cool.
Hmm.
Um, and obviously, I mean, you could be that for people now, Sika, right?
How weird would that be? Yeah.
So I remember, like I said, what we met when you were kind of trying to make that jump from elite age grouper to pro, and I remember you I remember talking to you about like how hard it is, right? Like how hard it is to make that jump. And I don't remember what advice I gave you. I'm sure it was brilliant, but how hard was it to make that jump to go from like, okay, I really like this. I'm training before work. I'm training after work, but now I want to get my pro license.
Yeah, I was dumbfounded by how hard it was. Oh my goodness. I had no idea people train that much. So I interviewed a lot of coaches. I ended up settling on, well, Jonathan Karen settled on me, Coach Donio. Um, yeah, I started working with him, and he has coached Jen, Annette, and a bunch of other really talented triathletes. And so he's based out in where, sheesh, that's so bad that I'm forgetting, Canada. Sorry,
Oh.
Penticton, near Penticton. So he's
Mm.
based out there. He had a training group out there, so I was being coached remotely. But he is very much like, this is what you need to do, and I expect you to do it. And he that was the first time I used Training Peaks and stuff.
Mm.
And so when I look at what he put for the week, up to like 18, 20 hours of training, and I'm working full time, I'm like, people really do this? This is how you get this good? What was depressing though was I was doing all that and I was still kind of crappy. Like I wasn't even, I'm like, I'm training twice a day, every day. I'm going for these like 80-mile bike rides. I'm running, like off the bike at 6:30 pace or whatever on a Saturday. And then I got to wake up and do a long run on Sunday. I mean, it was just insane. And then I go to these races and I'd still get my ass kicked. So I'm like, how the hell am I ever going to get my pro card? Because even the elite age groupers, they are like at a pro level. You know
Yes.
how it is. They're
Yeah.
just so fast. So yeah, I wasn't sure it was how much of a possibility it really was, because I was giving so much of myself. I mean, it was really like every day I thought to myself, what can I do to get myself closer to getting a
Mm.
pro card? So even if it was a meal, if it was cutting out wine, if it was really making sure I got enough rest at night, getting in bed at 8 o'clock, not doing happy hour with coworkers. It was like a project for me. Like, how can I do this and get closer to this goal that I'm not even sure is achievable? But yeah, no, I mean, props to anybody chasing that goal, because it is hard.
Why was it so important to you?
Um, Diversity, Kelly, diversity. No, I mean, I saw very early on the lack of
Right.
diversity. And especially when I started racing like Ironman 70.3s,
Mm.
I knew there had never been a Black woman in the pro field before. And I'm like, oh, how cool would that be to see a Black woman on the start line one day? Maybe it will influence, a younger generation, and it wouldn't be as taboo as when I started. Yeah, I think it was really just that is what, uh, yeah, was just became very important to me. And I didn't realize how important it actually was to other people too until I started putting my story out there and they were following along as well. So, yeah, it was the diversity aspect and wanting to see a Black woman on the pro start line one day.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that that kept you going after, because I mean, you had a pretty bad crash at
Mhm.
one point too, which I know we talked about, but and that kept you going, coming back from that too, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I when I woke up in the ER um, after my cycling accident, I was like, absolutely not. I mean, I've talked about this so often. Like my mouth was broken, and my teeth were loose, and I had to have plastic surgery, and I had to get like 30, 40 stitches to my face, and I had road rash everywhere and had to go on antibiotics and live with my parents for a stint. So yes, absolutely. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm
I'm
done.
done. Yeah.
Yep, that's it. But having my blog and then putting the pictures out there and sharing them with anybody who was interested, I think really opened my mind to like how influential that
Hmm.
journey and the chase that I was on had. So yeah, that's what got me back.
That's what got you back. That I remember when that happened. That was at Galveston, right?
Yeah, Ironman 70.3
Uh,
Texas. Yeah, that was 2019,
yeah,
April,
yeah. It was
April
not the same year I
2019.
did. It was like you did the year after. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I know.
You're like,
Sometimes it feels like just yesterday, and then sometimes it feels like a lifetime ago that happened.
I think whatever people, because I've talked to totally different, but like Kat Matthews had a really bad accent too, and obviously
Yeah.
I've talked, and I think there's like for people who have these, or my husband had really bad accents, right? When you have one of these, it like becomes like very life defining, and other
Yes.
people outside are like, oh, that happened and you moved on, but for you, it's like there's the before and there's the after.
Literally, it was like life before my cycling accident and life after my crash. And it was two different, like I was a bit naive before. You never think it's going to happen to you. You think maybe, oh, I might, I don't know, like unclip or not unclip in time and fall over at the light and, like bang
Right?
your
You're like,
elbow.
maybe I'll break my wrist.
Right,
Like,
right,
sure,
exactly.
yeah,
Or even go over, the handlebar and break a collarbone, which is very
right.
common. Not I'm going to have to go through a year or two of surgeries, the trauma of it all. Yeah, I mean, it really just changed my life. I was probably more vain before about my appearances and stuff, and now it's like, okay, my face is really jacked up. Like I will never look like how I looked before. Um,
Interesting.
yeah, you're less invisible or invincible. It should be the word. Before I would take a blind corner on a bike, not thinking about it twice about it. Like, let me just hurry up and stay in this race. And now it's like, there's a blind corner. Let me slow down. Like your whole thought process is different.
How did you don't actually remember what happened, right?
No, not at all.
Yeah, yeah.
I
So I
remember
never
getting on the bike in the race, and then I don't remember anything
I
until
never know if that's like better or worse, right? If you like
in my case, it was the best thing to have happened because
to
I
not
thought I was in
remember.
a car accident. Like that was the
Mm,
first real memory I had was that I was driving to the race and parking. And then I'm like, but I think I got in the water. So
right.
I thought, and when I saw myself, when I looked in the mirror, I was just like, I thought I went through the windshield. I had so many lacerations everywhere. So no, I don't remember the bike accident itself. And so I actually wasn't nervous about getting back on the bike.
That's what I was gonna ask.
Yeah, I was nervous
Okay.
to drive. It took a couple weeks before I start feeling comfortable driving again.
Interesting. So you actually were because I was gonna say how. I mean, anyone who's had a crash, which is like a lot of people, it's hard to get back out there. But that wasn't actually you. Actually weren't.
No, I immediately
Hmm.
got back on the bike. Yeah, I was aware of what happened, but it didn't scare
Sure.
me from getting back on the bike. I don't think until maybe later on when, the longer you're in the sport, unfortunately, you have friends or people that that get hit by a car or just so many horrible, not even life changing, but life ending accidents happen. And then you start getting scared. For me, I started getting scared of that.
Yeah, I've been weirdly freaked out lately, and I'm not sure why. Right? Because like I had like two small crashes in the fall, and maybe I just feel like I don't want another one. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like I'm
yeah,
due.
yeah.
Like yeah.
It all accumulates. I think it's just age, lived experiences. You're not as invisible and invincible anymore. You know what can happen. Like my dad was a airborne ranger, and so he used to try and jump out of airplanes and everything. He's actually afraid of heights now. He
Oh,
can't believe
interesting.
that he used to be able to do all that stuff, like rappel out of helicopters,
Huh.
and now he's just like he was on a cruise with my mom recently and they were like at the top level and he said he was looking over and he got nauseous and scared. So I think just as we get older, we realize like there's so many
That's weird.
things that could happen.
Let's face it, as much as most of us love being outdoors, sometimes the outdoors doesn't love us. Like when it's 10 degrees below or pouring rain, or sometimes you've got a workout on tap that's just hard to do outdoors. Well, great news. We have partnered with Wahoo to offer you a special deal on the Wahoo Kicker Run, a revolutionary rethink of the traditional treadmill that will convert even the most diehard treadmill haters. I know because I was one. The Kicker Run is engineered to bring outdoor running straight into your home. With a push of a button, you can set up this machine to match your pace automatically, so you can just run, and it automatically adjusts with you instead of the other way around. By far, my favorite feature. It also has terrain simulation, so the deck feels like I'm on hard-packed trails with just enough give but no bounce. There's even a lateral tilt feature which mimics real-world terrain, varying the side-to-side angle to keep your muscles ready for outdoor running. Finally, the Kicker Run has unmatched connectivity. It seamlessly connects to the Wahoo ecosystem and third-party apps, so you can simulate routes from Strava or Zwift. Whether you're a triathlete, a devoted runner, or someone who just loves to stay fit, the Kicker Run is there for you, and honestly, it's just a beautiful machine. We love it, we know you will too, so check this thing out. Click the link in the show notes and use the code Feisty2026, all caps Feisty2026, to get a free Headwind Smart Fan valued at $300 with the purchase of a Wahoo Kicker Run today. I will drop a link in the show notes to make it a snap.
Hey Feisties, it's Ella here from the Feisty team, and I have to tell you about something that's been a game changer for my recovery ever since I tried it for the first time 3 years ago. Pillar's Triple Magnesium. Pillar Performance is a performance health brand built by leading sports scientists, dietitians, and athletes with the goal of helping you show up to the start line at your absolute best. Anyone who knows me knows I take sleep very seriously and very much like my 9 p.m. bedtimes. And Pillar's Triple Magnesium, developed with insights from leading HRV researcher Dan Plews, has become a staple in my nighttime routine. I take it about 30 minutes before bed, and it helps activate the parasympathetic nervous system so I can fall asleep faster and stay in those deep restorative sleep phases longer. My Aura Ring backs it up. Higher HRV, more deep sleep, and I wake up feeling genuinely recovered and ready to go. If you want to level up your recovery, go check it out. Head to pillarperformance.shop, or if you're in North America, visit the feed and use the code Feisty for 15% off your first purchase. That's code Feisty for 15% off at either pillarperformance.shop or thefeed.com if you're in North America.
So Sika, when you did get your pro license, or when you qualified, which we've mentioned this before on the podcast, requires like a top 3 finish at a certain level, like size race. It was a big deal. And all of a sudden, there was so much outpouring of support. Were you surprised by how many people had been following and were excited and like cared? Or did you know it was going to be that big?
You know, it was bizarre. It's like you wake up the next day and all of a sudden you have like 10,000 more followers and stuff, and it shares. And I couldn't imagine now actually if it happened, because so many more people are on social media. But yeah, no, it was, and we have Threads and all sorts of other apps now, but yeah, it was just like shared and reshared, and just, I had trouble getting through all the messages. I remember the lack of sleep I got for that entire week after I got my pro card, just kind of on a buzz from it all. And like, I kept saying to my mom, I can't believe it happened. Like, I can't believe it actually happened. I didn't really think that it would, because there were so many incidents leading up to it. It was like between my accident and then we had pandemic and the races can't close. So there were just so many things I felt working against me. But yeah, it did. And it was pretty awesome. I had all sorts of media outlets reach out. I did interviews with like ESPN, and I ended up on the cover of the sports section of the New York Times. I mean, just really surreal. It was awesome.
I always wonder about like the 80-year-old who finished Kona, Natalie. We had her on the podcast, yes, and she went super viral after we had like talked to her also, and I don't think she expected that either. And I always wonder if people from our tiny little sport, when they go super super viral, if they are prepared.
No, I don't think so. I don't think anybody is. Like, you don't do it for, especially with our sport, you don't do it for that. Like, I wasn't putting myself out there and coming back from crashes and stuff to go viral or to get followers or to be interviewed by outlets. It was just a byproduct of that. So no, I think when you're chasing a certain goal, that isn't your thing. Isn't, I want to be a social media sensation. Sure. It's just, I really want to achieve this thing that I've been working towards for 10 years.
And because, achieving your pro license was like the big goal, once you were then at your first pro race, was it anticlimactic? What was it actually like to be out there?
Terrible. It was I think that's the last time you and I were on a podcast. Yes. I think you titled it like Sika Henry finally races, feels her dream racing as a pro, and it was like the worst thing ever. Yeah, it wasn't what I was expecting. Age group racing was so much fun. I took for granted how much fun age group racing was. Like, you're amongst so many people the entire day, and you're just kind of like chasing. And as a pro
racing is lonely.
Yes, you don't know if you're even on the right course half the time, especially in the women's field. Like, I'm a crappy swimmer, so I get out the water, I'm last, literally. This was Ironman 70.3 Augusta. So I get out the water, I'm like dead last by a few minutes. I finally get to like the pro bike rack, which I was so excited about having. And then there's my one glowy bike, get on the bike, I'm on the course, and it was cold that day. And I was very thin at the time. I'm not purposely just training all the time. Sure. I was a very lean athlete. And so I was like freezing and shivering. It didn't pack the right stuff. And I had to talk myself out of dropping out like every mile of that bike ride. And then finally got on the run course, and your 127 or whatever that you would typically run that would get you on a podium as an age grouper. Now you're in the elite field and they're running like, I don't know, 118. So you're not, you're just not moving up at all. You're just going backwards the entire day. And you're getting passed by first the top age group men who are really fast. So yeah, it just feels like you're going backwards the whole day. It wasn't fun.
It is a weird, my first pro race ever, was not, I mean, yes, similar experience, but just sort of like you're out there and it was oceanside and you're by yourself and you're like, but there's 2,000 people here. Like, how did I spend all day with like 3 people? And I remember one of my friends told me, I was like, it's just totally different. And she was like, you don't know until you know. Like, you can't, like, we can tell everybody this, but you don't really understand until you're out there.
Out there, right. Yes, it's weird. And then that race, it was what's legal for the age groupers and not for the pros. So I couldn't wear a wetsuit, which is part of the reason why I got out the water freezing. So you just, all these little things that you don't think about. I'm like, oh, if I had just stayed where I was, I'd have a wetsuit on right now, or I'd be passing the field on the bike. And then my run was my, thing. And so I went from the time before when I did Augusta, coming in like 6th amateur overall, to being in the pro field and coming in dead last and having like age group women pass me. So yeah, it was rough.
It happens though. I feel like, yes, you don't know until you know, until you're out there, but also, I mean, you're racing the race, right? Like you get to do it. You get to see how you stack up.
Oh, for sure. It was an honor. I mean, it's cool putting on the pro bib and having your little, we had our own porta potties. We just have to wait for lines. And so, yeah, I mean, we get to start a few minutes before everybody else. And it's a unique experience and I'm grateful for.
Did you have, I mean, obviously part of what kept you motivated and kept you going was because you wanted to kind of set an example, right? And be the first Black woman out there.
Well, I didn't do a good job of that, but
but you were the first one out there.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, for a while there, I mean, then we had like the first like Asian American pro. We had like more and more and more. And it seemed like it was really, I don't know what the word is, breaking the doors open, right? Mm-hmm. Did that keep coming? Do you feel like it made a difference? Do you feel like there's another generation coming up here now?
I've been out of the loop, unfortunately, so I can't say that. When I started racing pro, though, Ironman Foundation had reached out to me, and this was back in 2021, so a little post Black Lives Matter protests, all that stuff going on, and so they had invested money, and one of their platforms was Race for Change, and so we worked together with like Black Runners Connection and Black Kids Swim and stuff like that to put together relays, and I guess even more recently a scholarship fund for people of color that want to eventually do a half Ironman or a full Ironman, and they give them resources, a coach, they provide a bike, and whatever you need in order to perform your best. So I did see efforts being put towards helping the sport become a little more diverse. I saw a change in, I guess, social media postings. It wasn't just the typical, this is what a triathlete looks like. It's been an array of different bodies. And I mean, even seeing Chris Nikic, the first person with Down syndrome to complete Kona and stuff. So I did feel like things were heading in a certain direction. I feel like there was effort being put into changing what a triathlete looks like. But unfortunately, I feel like the further we get away from 2020, 2021, and with the current political climate that we're in and current administration and things like that, it's been more put on the back burner. But I can't say that definitively because I'm not as involved in the sport. So I'm not sure what's going on now.
I was just curious if you if you felt like you opened doors for people and there were, because like we have talked about, there are and you kind of mentioned there are some college kids and there are some younger kids and for sure there are people coming up. So we'll just have to see.
Unfortunately not as I guess obvious if that's the case. Yeah, like even now when I'm watching these races like an Ironman New Zealand, do I see diversity in the pro field there? No, absolutely not.
Sure. New Zealand, it's an interesting question. You did Kona one year too, right?
I did the year of my crash.
As part of I was like, wasn't that part of the whole like push with Ironman and the
Yeah,
foundation
it
and
was.
Hoka?
Yeah. So after my accident, that was April 2019, I immediately got back to racing. I don't know, what was it, 2 months later? I did was it a challenge race or Rev 3 Montclair. It was
Mm,
just a sprint because I knew, you know how if you fall off the horse or whatever, you need to hurry up and get back
whatever.
on. So I'm like, okay, I need to just get one out the way so that my last memory isn't an accident. It's like a race. And I ended up winning that sprint. And I was like, okay, I'm back. I can do this. And so I did a half Ironman that went well. Then Eric Gilsonen in his big mouth, he's with Hoka and he's like, we have, because they're a sponsor, and so they can give a honorary slot to somebody for one of their athletes to participate in Kona. And I never done a full Ironman. I had no intention of ever doing a full Ironman. I think everybody who does them is crazy, but it's admirable. But yeah, that just wasn't at all on my radar. And but everybody who I spoke to, when I told them, like my dad, I always went to like three key people. My dad, should I do this? Dan Emfield, hey, what do you think of this? Should I do this? And then my coach, Jonathan Karen, they're all like, are you crazy? Like, take this opportunity and do it. And, who knows? The other thing I thought maybe, because you know how they do the profiles on NBC, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, maybe they'll
Maybe
profile
I'll
my
be
journey
one.
and
Yeah.
that'll show representation. And, so, yeah, so I ended up saying yes. Luckily, they watched Roderick Sewell. He was the first double above the knee amputee to finish Kona, a young black guy. And but anyway, so yeah, I had that opportunity and I took it and I did Kona.
And how is that? And you're done. That was your one and
Yeah,
only.
one and done. I mean, how do you top that? No, it was incredible. But it was scary. Like, you hear about or read about all of the elements and the wind
Sure.
and how hot the energy lab is, and you're amongst all these really incredible people with diverse stories, and people who are coming back from accidents or losing a loved one, or doing hoit, like you see somebody pushing another person in a
Right.
wheelchair. So yeah, it's really a unique experience, and yeah, I'm glad I did it. I mean, and then also I did get shit for it too, because people were like, you didn't qualify, why are you
Sure.
out there? And so that was kind of hard too. And I'm like, well, I mean, I kind of don't want to be out here, but it's being gifted to me, and why not take this experience? But yeah, no, I did get some shit for it.
Oh yeah. I mean, people are. I don't know. You get shit for everything. It is
That's
what
true.
it is. It is what it is.
Yeah, that's
To
true.
your point, I don't know what would happen. Right, like the current social media climate these days. If you were going through your qualification journey now, it would be a very different experience.
Oh yeah. I mean, and I dealt with um all sorts of stuff back then too. It's because that was one of the questions that would always come up about, why are you doing this? And, you bring up diversity,
Mhm.
or I want to be the first black this or that. And people are like, why do you got to bring race into it? And you're causing further division. And so I would receive nasty DMs. I would read comments that were hurtful. But you just have to stick to your own truth and your own why. And nobody can take away your story and your history and your lived experiences. My dad's side of the family, my grandpa, he's from Montgomery. He's has now passed, but he's from Montgomery, Alabama, and he was such a talented track and football athlete that he could have played in the NFL, but because of segregation, he was never able to play in the NFL. And even my dad, he talked about growing up, and my dad grew up in New York City. His parents were divorced, and so he would go down south. And at the time with segregation, once he got on the not the bus, I should say, the train, he had to go into the colored section, and so these are like stories that my dad's sharing with me. And so something that my grandpa had always said, because he wasn't able to play in the NFL, was he couldn't believe there'd ever be a day when blacks could play professional sports. And that's something that has stuck with me on my journey and still sticks with me now. So, people can write things and say things and call you this or call you that, but when you're just like sharing your lived experiences, you should feel confident and content, I think, with whatever you put out there, no matter what people say.
That's probably good advice generally
Mm-hmm.
for
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
How long? So you made it to that your pro race. You did the pro racing. You
Yeah.
set the example.
Yeah.
How long did you do it for?
Oh, only what, 3 years? Three. I did a
Something like that.
lot
Mm.
in that span of time. And I was also trying to keep up with, I don't know how all the women now and men too, but they race so frequently. And so I felt I had to do that too. Like I did 70.3 Eagle Man, and then what other? It was like the White Lake Half Ironman and Ironman 70.3 Oregon. And then I was also I did maybe Boston Marathon that year, and I did 100K uh, ultra that year. And so I was just like racing a ton and just wearing myself out. And then it just got to the point where I was in the middle of a triathlon on the bike, and I'm like, this isn't fun anymore. Like, I'm not having fun. I'm not getting what I used to out of it. And it wasn't
Sure,
just that.
sure.
I went through a period after I got my pro card where I never like dreamed of anything past that. Like that was the
Right.
finale for me. It was never to be some big pro or like try to get on a podium or anything. It was just being a pro, going to one race and like doing that. And so I really struggled with having meaning and purpose behind my training and racing after that.
How did you deal with that? How do you deal with that now, right? Like obviously you are still doing, I mean we started out talking about this at the beginning. How did you kind of adjust your expectations, your goals, and like continue to find motivation?
Well, at that time, I really didn't. It was kind of
Mm-hmm.
depressing. I started seeing a therapist and stuff. I'm just like, I achieved what I wanted to, so why don't I want to do this anymore? Why aren't I like having that same drive at the end of, like a track workout to keep pushing? It was just kind of like, why am I doing this? And so it's just finding, and that's okay. Like it's okay to say, okay, like I achieved what I wanted. I think it's probably something similar to when people win like a world title or whatever. It's hard to repeat that, or like they win an Olympic gold and it's hard to come back because you've achieved the highest thing that you've wanted. So yeah, just like finding new things in new ways. And this is when being involved with like a not-for-profit or speaking at schools is where I started feeling more fulfilled, because that what I accomplished helped open the door and give me a platform to now speak and travel. And I got to speak at colleges and universities. I mean, I never would have thought that opportunity would have came to me. So that became the reason why I still kept training and putting myself out there and staying engaged on social media.
And now that you're, I mean, you ran
A
Marine
bum.
Corps. Well, I was gonna say now that I was trying to not as fast as we once were, Sika.
Yes.
How do you adjust your goals? Like, how do you kind of like deal with the like, well, I was this good, but now I still want to do these things, even if I'm not going to be as fast.
When I figure that out, I will like, no. I work with a therapist. I journal a lot. She has me, so going into the Marine Corps Marathon last year, I started feeling like, what's the point of me even doing this if I'm not going to run like a 250 something? Like,
Right.
why would I want to go out there and just be running slower? But she said, she's like, stop comparing like triathlon Sika or what Sika was to what Sika is now. This is like, it's a blank slate. Like, pretend that no other time existed before. Like, where are you now? Use that as your benchmark. And so for me going into that race, that's literally what I had to do. I had to say, like, no, if you don't run this particular time that you have in the past, doesn't mean that you're horrible or you're worse, you're slow. It's just, you're now married, you're now focused more on work, you're not training twice a day every day. So what do you have in you on that day for how you've trained? And so yeah, it's like giving yourself grace and kind of not erasing the past, like it's shaped where you are now, but you're a different, like I'm a different person now.
Sure.
My husband and I, we bought a house and we moved, and I spent a lot of time
Home
with
ownership sucks, man. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like you have more bills to pay. And so yeah, it's like an evolution of like, I traveled a ton at the time. So it was like, when I traveled, when we were in Lisbon, my husband does jiu-jitsu. He was competing in Portugal. And so I didn't have access to like a pool or being able to ride my bike and stuff. So, but I was enjoying food and culture and things like that. So I have a more well-rounded life. And so it's like being okay with what I'm choosing to be at now.
And is it working for you?
Oh, I think so. I mean, I'm
Okay.
still actually on a high. So I ended up running like a 3:02 at Marine Corps. And
Awesome.
yeah, no, it's been really great. Like, I can't believe I enjoy swimming now. I'm not going in with like, I don't have a coach who's putting on Training Peaks exactly what I have to do. So I'm not going to the pool like high anxiety, stress, like, can I hold 130s for hundreds or whatever? It's just, I kind of have loosely in my head what I want to swim that day, and I adjust accordingly. And I would not talk to people before. And like I said earlier, I got to talk to, his name's Owens, the 90-year-old guy. And, so yeah, it's just a different experience. So yeah, I am enjoying life. I'm not going to say that it's completely like the therapy has like worked wonders, because it's still very much hard. Like, I'm still attached to the community and seeing what times people are running, and I'm like, oh, I wish I could do that. And
Sure.
yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Mhm.
What are you, all right, here's my last question. What are you excited about this year? Like, what, like, for yourself, your goals, to watch, like, what are you excited about?
Attempting this 5K open water swim. It kind of scares me, but I'm excited about that. Next week I head back to Selma to do Selma to Montgomery, but as a relay this time. So I think I'll experience a bit more since I'm not running 51 miles straight. Yeah, and hopefully finding more of those like experience races that have like historical importance. Like, there's probably so many out there that I don't realize and I never hear about until somebody randomly brings them up. But yeah, I'm hoping for that. And I'm considering maybe coaching, getting my USAAT license. Yeah. So yeah, maybe
I
that.
hear there's some college kids, some high school kids who need coaches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So maybe that. Yeah, maybe that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for chatting with us, and I am glad to hear that you're back in the pool. Yeah.
Of course. Thank you. Maybe I can get you to join me.